You're listening to XVGM Radio. Welcome to XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Mike.
And I'm Ed.
And this is episode 131, Shinji Hosoe Spotlight.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm excited for this one because I really don't know much about Shinji Hosoe's music. I've heard some of it. I know you're a big fan, and this was your episode idea, so I'm kind of stoked to hear more from this artist.
Yeah, for sure. He's been one of the composers that I've really been a fan of since, I guess, back in the day he was probably most popular for doing the Ridge Racer series.
Yeah.
Ridge Racer, Rave Racer, Ridge Racer 2, etc. And he's like the composer that introduced me into like hardcore techno music, was very influential on a lot of the music that I started listening to throughout my teens and 20s and even now. So this is kind of like my way to pay a little bit of respect to him.
So he popped
my techno cherry.
Your techno cherry, right? Gross.
Yeah. But as I dove deeper into his music, I've discovered that he's like a chameleon, all sorts of different genres.
Yeah.
But it's all really high quality, high production stuff. So every track that we have on this show is going to be a banger.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was looking over his list of games that he's done, and like, he really has covered the gamut. There's shooters, there's racers, there's fighters, there's puzzle games, there's all sorts of really cool, unique soundtracks. And surprisingly, there's some tracks on here that I have heard before that I didn't know that it was him. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Chameleon, that's pretty spot on for everything that I've heard from Shinji, so it's going to be pretty cool to dive into it. But we started off with a game called Fighting Layer, and this track that we heard was Alan Snyder, and this was the arcade.
No relation to Justin.
Right. Not Schneider, not our other host. Snyder, and this was a 1998 release. The story on this one, at least as far as not the character, but like the creation of this game, is pretty interesting because it was developed by Arika, and from what I understand, Arika, they worked on like the Street Fighter EX games.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, they produced that game, and then Fighting Layers kind of like a spiritual sequel. So there's two characters, Alan Snyder, and there was one other character. What was their name? Blair Dame.
Yeah.
Who are characters in Street Fighter EX that carried over into Fighting Layers.
Oh, okay.
And similar to Street Fighter EX, it's a 3D fighting game on a 2D plane. So similar to Virtua Fighter, that kind of thing.
They made a newer Fighting Layer game, if I recall.
Fighting
too.
EX Layer.
Yeah. Cool. I'll have to give that one a shot.
Yeah.
I've heard great things about this game. I've never played it. Street Fighter, I don't know, like I like Street Fighter, but like I don't love Street Fighter, if that makes sense. Like I will play it if it's available and it's around, but I don't go out of my way to play it. I'd say of all the Street Fighters, probably like the alpha games are my favorite.
Yep.
So I've always wanted to check out Street Fighter EX though.
They are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
EX and EX2 I grew up with, and they don't play anything like Street Fighter.
Okay. Well, that piques my interest.
It's kind of like if you like tossed Street Fighter and Tekken in a blender and put them together, like
losing interest.
Okay. It's fun. There's a lot of combos and
it's well worth checking out, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I never could get into Tekken. I know he did the soundtrack for Tekken as well. Tekken and Tekken 2.
Tekken 2, and has contributed to, I think we've got a Tekken track later on in the show.
Okay.
So.
But this track, I love the jazz vibe, but also the very Capcom sounding like horns in there too.
Yeah.
Very, very Capcom oriented.
The bass line is just straight up blues.
Right.
And then you've got these funky, chunky horns going over the top of the whole thing.
Funky chunky. I dig it. Yeah.
It feels 1998 Capcom fighting game. For sure.
It's not quite Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in terms of like the kind of jazz blues kind of vibes.
Yeah.
But despite that, it's like this weird kind of in between. It still has those Capcom kind of elements sound wise, but then it kind of veers a little bit into that like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 era. So it's kind of like a best of both worlds.
Yeah. And it's super rare to play nowadays too. It's never been ported to a home console.
Really?
It doesn't appear in any collections.
Huh.
The only way you can play it is if you have a relatively beefy computer that can run MAME, because it's a 3D game in MAME, so you need some processing power.
Well, I guess having the new game, I would imagine that he worked on the new one as well, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if maybe there's some music from the first game that they kind of carried over, maybe. Because I know a lot of companies do that, like with Soul Calibur 6, they basically were like, here's like all the soundtracks to like all the games.
Yeah, exactly. According to what I'm reading, Takahiro Iguchi and Fumihisa Tanaka worked on EX Layer, but there were remixed and rearranged versions of some of Hosoe's tracks.
Okay.
In those games. So he was like there in spirit.
Yeah. Alan Snyder, just the character, is kind of like if Dan didn't suck. Is that an accurate like statement?
So that's basically Kyo from the King of Fighters series.
Right. Because he's an American that looks like he's dressed. I mean, he's got American colors. He looks like more Ken than Ken.
Yeah, for sure.
He's got like short, kind of reddish, blondish kind of hair. And he kind of, who he looks like, what I read he was based on was Chuck Norris. Like the young,
I can totally see that, yeah.
The young Chuck Norris. So, yeah, it makes sense. But like he looks straight up like he's dressed like Ken, but just blue and red instead of like red and black.
Yeah, according to his bio, he was said to be the strongest freestyle karate fighter on the American karate circuit until he experienced his first defeat against a young Ken Masters in a tournament.
Well, there you go.
So maybe he's got some vendetta against Ken there.
There's a lot of like Street Fighter adjacent kind of vibes from all of this.
Yeah, for sure. And it's weird having that crossover because you've got characters that are deeply kind of entwined with the Street Fighter EX characters, but now they're appearing in a Namco game that has nothing to do with Capcom at all. So the canon gets kind of twisty-turny there.
Yeah, it feels like the sort of thing that like Udon Comics would utilize.
Sure.
And they would be like, hey, let's just slip a couple Fighting Layer characters in there, It's weird that this hasn't been ported. I would imagine that they'd be able to port it with like arcade archives,
Yeah, I mean, it's not saying, no one's saying that they're not going to port it at any point soon.
Yeah.
They're getting to this kind of day and age in the arcade games where with the Switch 2 and stuff, that these games might start coming out eventually.
Yeah.
So.
I just feel like there's somebody like sitting around like, hey, anything's portable, all right, let's port it all,
Yeah, it's some kicking and punching in 3D. Let's throw it on the system.
Yeah, why not?
The kids will love it.
Yeah. That's pretty much it for Fighting Lair. Pretty cool. I wish I could play this one, but I guess I'd have to download it on MAME, which I don't like playing on my computer. Boo! But
that stinks.
Yeah.
Watch some video of it. You'll be impressed.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Or I'll check out the new game because I'm excited to see more about these characters and whatnot.
Sure.
So. Anyways, let's move on to our first pick, which is going to be my choice, which is Mega Man Network Transmission. This came out in the GameCube in 2003, and this is Densen Area by Shinji Hosoe. All right, we're back. That was Mega Man Network Transmission, the track Densen Area, and that was a GameCube exclusive that came out in 2003.
It feels shmuppy to me, for sure.
Okay.
But it feels kind of Mega Man-ish, but I liked the fact that it just rolled forward without stopping.
Okay. Yeah.
Like very video gamey,
yeah,
but also felt like it kind of had a modern feel to it too.
Yeah, this doesn't quite feel... It's like a combination of like a Mega Man X track from like the later years, like X4, X5, which was a lot more like kind of wispy sounding and less like, kind of crunchy hard rock.
Yeah. And
it's also got some vibes of the Mega Man Battle Network games, which makes sense because that's what it's based off of. Mm-hmm. So, sound-wise, I do like this track quite a bit.
I had to kind of keep reminding myself that it was Shinji Hosoe because it doesn't sound like a lot of the stuff that I'm familiar with that he's made.
And I did go and look it up because this soundtrack much like a lot of his work, is composed by other composers, like working with him as part of a group called Super Sweep. Ayako Saso, she is also credited on this one, and Yusuke Yasui. And both of them also did tracks on this soundtrack, but thankfully this track is in fact a Shinji Hosoe track. So everyone that's going to, potentially be like, well, actually, no.
Don't pull a Nick Carney.
Yeah, don't do that.
Also, that being said, Hosoe's got his fingers in so many different series. We're not going to be able to visit all of them on the show.
For sure.
But, I know a lot of you guys out there are really big fans of him or the series that he composes for, so share him in the Discord, share him on the socials. If we don't play him on the show, we'd love to hear and discuss that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a whole share VGM section that you can post away, all your VGMs.
And we might even post some runner-ups there, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I got a couple in my back pocket.
Yeah. So, this game, have you played this game?
I have not. I actually got the original Mega Man Battle Network for the GBA.
Okay.
Because it was like one of the launch games for the GBA.
Yes.
And I was just hungry for GBA games to play.
Sure.
I was never really a kind of a tactics fan, so I played a little bit of it and was like, this gameplay isn't really for me, and kind of bounced off it. So I'm familiar with the world that this takes place in, but I've never actually played this one.
Yeah, I mean, it continues the whole story as far as playing as a kid named Lan Hikari. You're playing as Mega Man, but it's like Mega Man.exe.
It's an alternate Mega Man.
Right. It's an alternate universe Mega Man sort of thing, but it's like VR. It's like not virtual reality, but like Avatar based. So it's kind of like Pokemon meets Mega Man in a way.
It's meta in a way, where you're controlling Mega Man in a video game, but the character that you're playing as is controlling Mega Man in the game.
Right, and you're controlling all of them. So yeah, makes sense. But this one is I don't know. I don't know much about the plot, but it's like they, I guess, introduced the Zero virus into cyberspace, and so you're playing as Mega Man EXE to try to, jump and shoot.
Basically, with the whole Battle Network transmission, it's still Dr. Wily, but he's creating viruses to take down the computer network instead of creating robots to basically take over the world.
Right.
You're essentially becoming a virtual avatar to do this all, beat everybody up.
Yep. Pretty much. And so this is a side-scrolling Mega Man game where you play as Mega Man EXE, and it is brutally difficult. I got this when it came out. I was stoked. I had played Battle Network through our buddy Brian, and he was the one that introduced it to me. He loved the soundtrack, and so I ended up picking up the game and played quite a bit of it. And I liked Battle Network, but I didn't love Battle Network. Yeah. And so when I found out the network transmission was going to be more like a traditional side-scrolling Mega Man game, I was all in. So I got it at launch, and it was just so brutally hard. And I've beaten every Mega Man classic game that's been released. I've beaten most of the Mega Man X games. I could not beat this game. I think I got maybe 2-3 stages in and was just like, I can't beat it. And I just gave up and moved on to something else.
Which is funny because the Battle Network games were originally made to kind of capture some of the childhood demographic that was into the Pokemon stuff.
Yeah.
So for a Mega Man kid-friendly series to suddenly become so difficult was really strange. I can only imagine all the kids who were playing this on GBA now getting this on GameCube and being destroyed by it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I felt like the Battle Network games had a totally different level of difficulty as compared with this. This was just I think the biggest hiccup that I had with this is they introduced the whole battle chip gameplay where you have to switch between chips, and the chips do different power-ups and different
barbecue, salt and vinegar.
Right. Yeah, just salt and vinegar and ranch and
habanero,
creamy jalapeno. Yeah, just don't get the mustard ones. Oh, not good.
So good.
No. And it's weird because you're cycling through them while you're still trying to use your normal jump and shoot stuff. So there's this weird kind of difficulty level that's added in because you're switching between these chips to try to use them to your benefit. And so I just could not handle it, and I tapped out.
Sounds like one of those difficulty curves where once you figure out how the chips work, then you'll be good at it, but there's a big learning curve there.
Right. I mean, the best thing you can do with the chips is if you've got Ruffles and get some hell of a good dip, like the French onion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or some queso.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of that French onion dip, but every time I eat it, it does not agree with my tummy.
Then you just got to switch the chips.
No, I just got to suffer. Just
Fair.
Eat
If
and
it's
suffer.
worth it.
It's worth it. Suffer for your chips.
If it's more fun going in than it is coming out, then you're doing it right.
Depends which way it comes out. So yeah, that's all I got to say about Denson Area and Mega Man Network Transmission. It's a fun game. It's just really difficult. And I remember I sold it. Like, I just couldn't. I was like, I'm not going to keep this in my collection. I'm just going to sell it. I'm sure it's expensive now. But I'd like to, like, revisit it and see if it really is that difficult or if I was just, like, a stupid college kid that just couldn't beat it. So
Yeah, I mean, it did come out with 2003.
2003.
So you were just a little baby, Mike.
I was in college. That was like my second year of college or something like that. So.
Just out of diapers.
Yeah. All right. Well, it looks like we are getting a call on the caller request hotline, which is very strange because you haven't even picked your first track yet.
Weird.
I guess we'll take a call. So, Janine, stop grimacing and send it on over to us. XVGM Radio, who is this and what can we do for you?
Ridge Racer!
Yes, that is a game.
Wow, this is a great caller. You must be one genius of a podcast. You've got to teach me.
Teach you what?
I want to hear Wrong Love from Ridge Racer from the arcade in 1995.
Is this like the announcer from Ridge Racer that is calling?
Wow, what a host. This is just what I wanted to see.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, all right then. Let's play some Ridge Racer, I guess, or Rave Racer, rather.
Great job. I've got everything on my iPhone, so you'll listen later, huh? You're the greatest.
Okay. All right. Thanks, caller. Wow, that was very energetic.
He sounded just like the real thing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. So, I guess we'll play Rave Racer.
From Shinji Hosoe.
Wrong Love.
Arcade, 1995.
Let's do it.
All right, you're listening to Wrong Love from Rave Racer, composed by Shinji Hosoe, released on the arcade in 1995. And one of the reasons I wanted to pick a track from this game is for the first time ever, this game is coming to home consoles via
I just read that.
Arcade Archive.
Yeah.
So the release date was February 26th, so it should be out by the time of release of this podcast, right?
In theory, or the day after, if we release on the 25th.
Yeah.
But,
so
yeah.
one way or the other.
Yeah. I have so much to say about this track.
Hit me.
Well, first off, I wonder...
I thought he was saying Wrong Love, because that's the name of the song. Wrong Love.
Oh, I don't hear that. I hear I wonder.
It could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
But
I thought it was One Love originally when I first heard it.
One
But...
love. Yeah, it could be that too. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It
But
makes
anyway.
you wonder. So I love that, and I love the whole, like, the beat and everything, like, really good stuff. The only thing I really dislike about this track is that white noise, that fuzz.
Oh, yeah.
I thought
no,
I thought the track was bad.
Yeah.
But you weren't like, wait a minute.
No.
So
it's weird. It feels almost like it should be like a hi-hat or something in the
Yeah.
percussion, like how it's placed, but it's kind of staticky.
yeah, it's just sounds like white noise to me. I don't know. It's very peculiar. But the rest of the track's good. Like, after that, it kind of loses me a little bit, but like, I really, really love the beginning, and I love the transition back into I wonder, and even like I was kind of haunting at the end too, when like there was that
When the beat
sustain on
kind
the
of drops
vocals.
out, and it gets a little like evil towards the end.
It's cool.
This reminds me of a lot of like the jungle and house that I was listening to at the time. And this is the soundtrack that I kind of have the least familiarity with because, like I said, Rave Racer never came
played
home.
it. Yep.
So
You ever play it in the arcades?
yeah, I did. I played
Okay.
it in the arcades, and I do have a rip of the soundtrack. It's
Okay.
just because it's not like ingrained in my head like the original Ridge Racer or the PlayStation games were. I didn't like visit it as much.
Sure.
But the cool thing about all of these games is that all three Ridge Racer games, Ridge Racer 2, and Rave Racer, which was the third in the series,
Yeah.
ran on the Namco System 22 hardware, and the audio hardware in that system is sequenced. So you're not listening to Red Book audio here.
okay.
You're listening to actual sequenced audio, which is like the Super Nintendo bumped up to 1,000,000.
Sure.
And I think I haven't actually heard any stories behind why they originally called Shinji Hosoe's kind of composing team the Sampling Masters. And I wonder if it's because this is a sample-based system. And you obviously tell they're really good at manipulating samples, and like every single sound in this song is made up of a sample from somewhere else. It's like, Chemical Brothers and everybody were doing that at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if just their prowess with manipulating samples and stuff got them that moniker, Sampling Masters.
Possibly. Yeah.
You're not too into the Ridge Racer, so you don't play a lot of racing games in general, right?
I don't know. I did pick up Ridge Racer on the PSP not too long ago. That's kind of like a best of in a way.
Yeah.
It's got all the older tracks. One of the tracks I really loved was a Pac-Man track. It was like a Pac-Man remix.
Yes.
Which is really good.
Yep.
I thought the music was great in it, and I thought the gameplay was really fun, although like I found that, and I don't know if this is just a Ridge or Rave or whatever racer thing, but it felt like the harder that I held the up button, the faster I would go. And I don't know if that was just in my head or unintentional.
It's probably unintentional. I mean, maybe it just made your steering a little better because you were being more incremental with it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But
So you're talking about Ridge Racers, which was
maybe
the
it's called
PSP
Ridge
game?
Racer.
I think it's Ridge Racers.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, it is. It kind of visited a lot of the older tracks and
Yeah,
stuff.
there was like Ridge Racer, I think 4 had a lot of like really good tracks. I've heard Ridge Racer 4 is like the best one. So that's what I've heard.
Not my favorite, but yeah.
I don't know.
Probably the most critically acclaimed one.
Yeah, it's like the one that is like the go-to that everybody is like, oh, this is the best one. And I'm like, what do you mean? Ridge Racer on N64 is the best one. I don't know. I actually haven't even played that one, so I don't even know why I said that.
Yeah, the series is crazy. There's been a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of Rave Racer coming out on the consoles, they instead released Rage Racer.
Right.
on the PS1, and then R4 after that. R4 is probably one of my favorite.
That's Ridge Racer 4.
Yeah.
Or Type 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But that has like this whole story mode that you can go through, and you kind of level up your cars and like pick different.
The cars get married.
And they do.
Yeah.
Have little baby cars.
Yeah.
Little Matchbox cars.
Little RC cars.
But it's a series that I picked up, like, again, it was a launch title for the PS1, and I got PS1 on, like, launch weekend.
Okay.
So it was one of the first games I had, one of the only games I had, and I just absolutely loved that. I've put so many hours into the original Ridge Racer, it's not even funny.
I have regaled in the tales from your time getting a PS1 at launch, and like, it's crazy to me because I didn't get a PS1 until like, I think it was probably 99 when I got one. I had got the N64 first in 98, and 95, 96, my parents were like, you could get a computer or an N64. And I was like, computer, because I wanted to like be online.
Sure.
And got the computer, played a ton of Doom and Final Doom. And then I was like, I'm bored. And then I went back to the N64. So, but like, I don't know. Like, I never went and checked out these games at all. I just had no interest in them. And it wasn't like I was against racing games. I definitely prefer arcade racers to anything. If I'm going to play a racer and it's not a Mario Kart or like a kart racing game, I'm going to play like an arcade game like this, or perhaps like a really fast racing game like, an F-Zero or a Extreme G. I loved Extreme Gs, like some of those games.
Yeah,
those were great.
And there are a lot of modern arcade racing games that do everything that Ridge Racer does, like have just built on that and maintain the quality. So there's not a whole lot of reason to go back to the original Ridge Racer if you're not already nostalgic for it, because you're getting that elsewhere. And I totally understand that. But the music is always what made the series for me. I mean, it was just a bonus that the games were awesome to play too. But I've told the story several times before, but that I listened to the soundtrack to the original Ridge Racer, composed mostly by Shinji Hosoe, and just kind of like tore up all the techno sections at my local record stores, like looking for music that was similar to what I was listening to in that game.
Kind of like a reverse Yuzo Koshiro.
Yeah, I just bought a whole bunch of compilations of techno, jungle, house, and like brought them home, and like none of them were the similar style of Ridge Racer, but I ended up liking them anyway, so it really expanded my palette of electronic music back then.
It's weird that all of those like sub-genres of techno and electronic music have like place like names, like jungle, house,
field, warehouse,
cave,
doctor's office,
cave music. Oh boy. All right, let's get into my next pick, which is we're going back in time to 1989, Dragon Spirit. This is the TurboGrafx 16 version, and this track is called Hyoga.
From Baby Shinji.
Hyoga. All right. Thanks for joining us back on our Shinji Hosoe Spotlight. That was Dragon Spirit, the TurboGrafx 16 version, which came out in 1989, and that track was Hyoga.
Cool track.
Yeah.
It does remind me kind of like Yuzo Koshiro.
Yeah.
Like very classical, but also very rockin' at the same time. Really good instrumentation. Lots and lots of layers there.
Yeah, there's so much. This is an onion for sure. There's a lot to unpeel here. I really, of course, dig the galloping bass. That's kind of
stuck
prevalent.
out for me too.
Yeah, but the two other parts that really kind of stuck out, there's an almost Gauntlet 4 kind of like lulling synth buried really deep, where you hear like kind of like it's a really guttural deep sound. And I don't know why, but it really reminded me of Gauntlet 4 on the Genesis. This reminds me a lot of Hitoshi Sakimoto, for sure. Very, very vibes, very good. And then there's another part later on where there's like a lot of overlapping, kind of layers that kind of like a little bit of call and answer, where you've got like, something kind of I love that. So this whole track was just like, oh, awesome. And what
long, too.
Yeah, pretty long for a TurboGrafx track. And I didn't realize this, but Dragon Spirit, which originally came out in the arcade, has, a soundtrack by Shinji and everything. But this game I thought it was the NES game. Like, I thought, I thought it was like Dragon Spirit on the NES is the same as Dragon Spirit on every other system, and it's not. Dragon Spirit on the NES is literally a sequel to the original Dragon Spirit. So I was like, oh, well, that's cool. Probably just emulate this, or it's probably on my TurboGrafx Mini.
Sure.
Probably. So I'll have to check it out. But yeah, really good soundtrack. Great vibes. Just love everything about this song.
It's funny because I was watching, I think GameSack, either 1 or 2 episodes ago, did like a comparison between the TurboGrafx and the arcade version. And the TurboGrafx definitely has the better soundtrack of the two.
Yeah.
Like he played a couple of samples of each of them, and I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
This really just feels much more rich and vibrant. The arcade version uses, I think it's like a YM22. It was really like one of the lower powered FM chips, and it sounds good, but it doesn't sound nearly as good as this does.
Those like earlier YM chips just don't have as good sound as like some of the later ones,
Very thin.
Yeah, and that's just kind of how it is. I mean, even the Famicom struggled with their early releases. Like you listen to something that Sunsoft put out like in 85 or 86, then you compare it with like something from 89, and it's like a world of difference.
You can't even recognize it as the same chip.
Right. Like you'd listen to it and be like, wow, is that really a Sunsoft game? It doesn't have that Sunsoft bass.
Exactly.
Yeah. This game is pretty cool, at least the NES game, which is the only one that I've played. It's a vertically scrolling shooter, and it was exclusive at the time for arcades, and then it got ported to like everything, like the X68000, the TurboGrafx 16, the Amiga, the Atari ST, just like everything got a port.
It was really popular in the arcades.
Yeah, it did pretty well for Namco. I mean, well enough that they would, create a sequel, which was Dragon Spirit: The New Legend on NES, Dragon Saber, and there was also even a webcomic adaptation of the game. So
Dragon Ball.
Wait, what? Shifty Look was the creator of the webcomic adaptation. So, but it's got a pretty interesting story. You're playing as a dragon named Amur. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he's trying to rescue Princess Alicia from the serpent demon Zoel. And you can move in 8 directions, and you get 2 different weapons. You get a flame projectile and a bomb. So very similar to like
Xevious?
I think Xevious, yeah, which is also a
Stinger,
Namco. Yeah, which is
those,
also a Namco game. So yeah, I think they just basically took Xevious and they were just like, hey, what if it was a dragon,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's got to rescue Princess, what's her name? Alicia. Yeah, like my girlfriend's name. So pretty cool. I gotta play the TurboGrafx version. I'm gonna, like, after we record, I'm gonna boot up my TurboGrafx 16 Mini and give it a shot if it's on there.
Yeah, it's one of those shooters where it's like the soundtrack really keeps you driving forward, and even if you die a few times, you're like, oh, I just want to keep hearing this music.
Well, that's how the NES one was, and I remember, like, it's got a great soundtrack, and I remember playing it. I just kind of picked it up on a whim for like $5 or whatever, and was just like, does everybody else know about this game? Because it's awesome and it's got a great soundtrack. Like, why don't more people talk about this game on the NES? So
Alert Metal Jesus, it's a hidden gem.
that's it. Yep. Let's drive that price up, people. All right. Let's move into your next pick. What do you got for us?
Yeah, this one's a very well-known series from Hosoe, especially soundtrack-wise. This is a track from Ibarra, which was released on the arcade and PS2 in 2005. We're going to listen to Rose Garden, a.k.a. Stage 6. And that was Rose Garden Stage 6 from Ibarra, released in the arcades and on PS2 in 2005.
2005.
Yup.
Oh,
this
man.
One's, got a little Castlevania vibes for you there, Michael.
It's got a little mic in it. I love this. It was great. I will say, I feel like the instruments could have been a little bit louder in terms of the tone, but overall, this was awesome. Like, it had squeedlies, it had meadlies, it had vanias and castles in it. So,
yeah. I really like that the tone of that lead keyboard. It's like wow,
Yeah.
and then when all the other instruments drop off and it's just the drums and that like Hammond organ is a really cool kind of breakdown in the middle of the song.
Yeah.
And it just like, again, this is furthering like my demonstration of how much of a chameleon Shinji Hosoe is. It's just,
yeah.
we just came off a TurboGrafx 16 game, and before that was like a hardcore techno song, and now we've got Castlevania rock going on.
Right. And this is like a shooter.
This is a vertical shooter too.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I wanted to put it near Dragon Spirit.
For sure.
This is much, much later on, though, obviously being 2006, but this was...
Or 5.
Well,
sorry. 6 for
6
the
and
PS2.
5, yeah. There was also a remixed version of this, which came out slightly afterwards for the PS2, which fixed some issues. But, this was developed by Cave, and had a lot of similar qualities to like Battle Backraid and Battle Garega that Rising and Aiding made, which Cave
I think
made
he did
from,
too, right? He
Yeah.
did Battle Garega.
I think he did Battle Garega,
Yeah.
and also the Cave was made up of guys that had previously been at those other
Oh,
development
okay.
companies.
All right.
So it's like a spiritual sequel kind of a thing, except a little more Baroque, a little more like Castlevania-y in terms of, but it's like mixing technology with supernatural, spiritual mana and all that stuff to
mean,
like make the planes.
If it ain't Baroque, Don't fix it. I was looking up like info on this game, and like I came across a visual of a bunch of anime female protagonists, mildly questionably aged, and some that were older and scantily clad. So
it's like the candy that gets people into the game.
Yeah.
But like they're not actually in the. They're the pilots of the ships.
I know,
basically.
and I've seen so many shooters that do that, where they're
Yeah.
just like, hey, it's a hot chick, and then you start playing and you're like, where's the hot chick? You know, so.
You just have to imagine her in the cockpit.
Right. She's in every bullet. Like, but I mean, yeah, looking at screenshots of the game itself, it's just a pretty standard cave shooter from the visual aspects of it.
Yeah, but a really good one. You know,
Yeah.
it got a lot of notoriety, especially for fans of the Garega and Backraid series. So, you know, I don't know too much about it. I'm not a super big shoot 'em up fan, especially like the vertical bullet hell shooters.
I can't.
I prefer my side scrolly, more like console style shoot 'em ups.
They're not bad games. They're just I get tired of dying all the time.
Yeah, they're an acquired taste.
Yeah.
and it really requires like somebody who just wants to just practice and practice and
Right.
practice and try to 1cc it. And
They are the fighting games of shooters.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Good luck to you if you want to get into it.
Yeah.
But it's a good soundtrack vehicle for, you know, a Shinji Hosoe fan to listen to a lot of the music.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of makes you wonder if, you know, Castlevania had been done by Namco, maybe it would have sounded a little like this.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I could see that. That'd be pretty cool if they hired Hosoe to do a Castlevania soundtrack.
Imagine Castlevania, but all the ghosts are Pac-Man ghosts
Waka,
being
waka,
on
waka.
Namco.
Yeah. Well, we know that if it was by Namco, there'd be a loading mini game because that's a
course.
Namco exclusive.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. It would be the original arcade haunted castle.
Yeah. I guess this takes place later in the game because it's stage 6. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more from Ibarra. Well, it looks like we are getting a request call in from one of our patrons. So let's go ahead and give them some time to shine. XVGM Radio, who is this and what can we play for you?
Hey guys, it's Ryan McPherson.
Hey, Ryan. What can we play for you?
Yeah, you know, I'm a really huge fan of Baroque-inspired power metal.
Same.
So with that in mind, I'd like to request Showtime from the PS2 shmup Ibarra.
Hey, we just played a track off of that, so let's go ahead and hear some more Ibarra. This is Ryan McPherson's request for Showtime.
This is stage 1, if I am not mistaken.
Oh, okay. That was freaking awesome. That was Showtime from Ibarra, and that was Ryan McPherson, patron extraordinaire's request.
Definitely leaning more on the Mike side of the soundtrack.
Yeah, a little bit. I also am a big fan of, power metal, progressive metal. This is straight up like a power metal track, but I thought it was funny because I'm listening to it. I'm like, this sounds like a Motoi Sakuraba track.
Oh, yeah, I can totally hear that. Yeah.
Like this sounds like something you'd hear in like Valkyrie Profile or Star Ocean or something that he did, with the Squeedleys and the Meadleys. So good track. I will say, I think the thing that makes this feel like a Hosoe track is that kind of sustained, squeedly that's just like kind of like a cat that got tail stepped on,
like the synth lead.
Yeah. It sounds like a guitar in a way, but I'm not sure what sort of instrument that is. But yeah, it's very much sounds like a guitar.
One of his trademarks, I think, is even when he's got a primarily like rock or like electronic like live instrumentation setup going, he's always got to add like a little bit of his like electronic keyboard in there to like add a little bit of video gamey kind of flavor.
Yeah.
And I like that because I love electronic instruments, and that's really what I tend to glom onto when I'm listening to stuff from him. Mm-hmm. But I love the fact that he likes using guitar as rhythm instruments a lot, even when everything else around it tends to be a little electronic and dancey. Mm-hmm. So that's another reason why I'm kind of like, I can F with this track, is what I'm trying to say.
You can, sometimes you just gotta slip a little Hosoe in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes you feel good. I guess we don't have much else to say in regards to Ibarra, just because we already talked about the game itself. But yeah, this track is great. I really am going to check out more of the soundtrack because it is awesome. It's a shame that this never came out in North America. It looks like it was a Japan exclusive.
You can get the PS2 import.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to play those nowadays.
For sure, yeah.
Since we don't have too much to talk about in this break, just a little bit of history on Shinji Hosoe is that he originally started off at Namco as a part-time playtester and CG artist, believe it or not. So he didn't even have anything to do with music. He was doing some music at home, like as a little hobbyist thing. At one point, I think it was like 1986, he had some friends at work and he played them some of the music that he was working on. He brought him a tape. And without even really intending to join the music section of Namco, and his coworkers were like, whoa, this is awesome. And they showed it to their bosses, and like lo and behold, Shinji Hosoe was like found himself reassigned to the composing section of Namco.
As one does.
And I can only imagine, like, so he's got this whole career going like 25 years later, and he's like, I just wish I could have been a graphic artist. And he was forced onto this musical path. Now, obviously, I mean, I'm sure he grew to love it very much. The other crazy fact that I learned about him is that he had no idea what techno was before composing in that style. Like, Namco wanted to really kind of start using that kind of music in their games. So the higher-ups gave Shinji Hosoe like a few tapes, a few records of some hardcore techno stuff. And at first he didn't really like it at all, but he was like, okay, this is my job, this is what they want me to do. And it slowly started growing on him. And then he got really, really into it after that and started becoming like one of the most influential electronic artists for video games in Japan. So I thought that was kind of funny too, where a lot of what he's most well known for was him kind of being forced down a path, like kind of accidentally. And just adapting and growing to it. So that's cool. I mean, and that's also, I think, why he can compose in so many different styles, is because it was just like one of those, and we've heard from Japanese composers that we've interviewed in the past, where it's like, you have to be versatile. They're going to tell you to do a thing and you do the thing.
Pretty much.
It's not like, Western or American or European composers where like you're well known for a genre and they will seek you out because you're good at that genre.
Right.
If you're working at Namco and you're suddenly going to do a Baroque metal game, well, hey, you're going to learn Baroque metal and then you're going to compose this.
That's it,
soundtrack. So.
But after that, he left and he ended up creating that company that ended up making Fighting Layer.
Yeah,
Arika.
So he was part of Arika.
Yeah.
He left Namco because he just didn't feel there was any growth left. So the sampling masters ended, and then he joined Eureka, and then I think he's CEO of Super Sweep. Super Sweep is like a record label that he owns.
Yep.
But they're not only a record label, but they're also kind of like
a
company
composing team
you can hire to work on video games and such.
I think it's Ayako Sasso.
Nobuyuki Sano.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's had the same like cohort of 3 or 4 different composers that he's basically worked with since his early days at Namco.
Yeah. And he's done all sorts of stuff for all different companies. It's not like he kind of stays with, one company in particular or one genre or anything. He very much is the chameleon of VGM. He's done stuff for Nintendo. He did the custom Robo games. He's done Tekken. He's done Pac-Man. He's done so much randomness and, including his own games through Eureka, too. So very versatile. Very good. Much love.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Speaking of much love, we're going to play our next track from Giga Wrecker. This was actually developed by Game Freak. This came out in 2017 for a whole bunch of the modern systems, PC, PlayStation Series, Xbox Series, etc. We're going to listen to a track called Empress of Nymphs.
listening to XVGM Radio.
That was Empress of Nymphs from Giga Wrecker / Giga Wrecker Alt, originally released on the PC in 2017 and then released as the Alt version for Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch in 2019. Puzzle platformer that takes place entirely in like this giant factory, which is why this track is so unbelievably industrial.
Yeah.
Grindy and percussive and full of like manipulated samples like Hosoe is famous for. I know this isn't necessarily the type of music you like, but what were your thoughts on this?
Oh, no, I did like it. When I listen to a track like this, I pick something specific that catches my ear, and I kind of latch on to that. And the thing that got me here was that kind of like buried, kind of grindy, like wow, you know,
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
a really
like
cool kind of
whooshing kind of sound.
Yeah.
And so I kind of focused on that, and when I heard that with the backbeat, I was like, I'm in. I thought it was fun to listen to.
It's almost kind of like, maybe not for everybody, but it's kind of like the music that I like to sleep to.
I could see that.
It's just because it's so just rhythmic, and it's not anything that's going to like wake you up with like a time change or a key change or anything like that. And I like the like distorted guitar samples that kind of change up and down in pitch a little bit. It just feels really evil, but also really kind of calming at the same time.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. It was reminded me of. Have you ever heard of Biosphere?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Not familiar too much.
Yeah, it's a Norwegian electronic musician known as Biosphere, and he's done like mostly like kind of ambient or ambient house type stuff.
Okay.
And I listen to the album, like I'll fall asleep to it, and he throws in like sound clips that sound like they're from like a 50s like sci-fi movie, but like I can never pinpoint like specifics.
Yeah.
So it always just sounds really creepy and weird. But at the same time, it's very similar to this type of stuff, but maybe like a little less frantic.
Okay.
Sounding.
That's cool.
So,
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
yeah,
that
they're
sounds really interesting.
they're really cool. I have one of their albums.
Very cool.
Yeah.
This game is a Metroidvania light puzzle platformer. And there are enemies to defeat, but essentially you have this kind of giant robot arm, and each stage is kind of like a self-contained room, and you have to basically complete the room, get to the exit by manipulating the garbage and debris in the room and reshaping it into like bridges and ramps, and kind of almost like remodeling the level to be able to get to where you need to go, and also to kill the enemies at the same time. So you can take, you can form things into spherical objects and shoot it to like kill enemies, or you can elongate it and turn it into rectangles to make platforms to jump on. So there's a limited amount of material that you can kind of break apart and reform. And I think there's a time quota. I think it all has a mode where there's a time quota. But it's cool. The puzzle aspect is basically that you have unlimited lives, and if you die, you just start back at that room that you were at. So each room is basically a puzzle to solve. You can also just kind of like reset the room too if you get to a point where you've like exhausted all of your materials and can't necessarily get through it. So I thought it was really neat, a neat concept for a game. It didn't really get very good reviews because while it's like really interesting at the beginning, they don't really do enough to like amp up the challenge or add enough to the puzzles to like keep you interested in it. So if you play the first like 10 levels and you're really, really into it, you might want to play the next 75% of the game.
Yeah, it seems like a cool concept.
Yeah, I just think they probably could have used a little more development time to amp up some of the stuff you're doing. And for a company like Game Freak to kind of drop the ball a little bit on this, so to speak,
That's
it's like
strange.
It is interesting. Maybe they just decided they didn't want to throw all their. They were too interested in their Pokemans.
I mean, they could have just put Pikachu in this game and it would have sold like hotcakes.
It's true. Can you imagine Pikachu running around to this soundtrack, though?
Yeah. Oh, totally. I could
Wearing raver pants.
Yeah.
Spiked collar.
Pika, like throwing little Pika. Yeah,
exactly.
Would have been dope.
But yeah, again, I'm trying to demonstrate the chameleon-ness of Shinji Hosoe and really trying to pick songs that are very, very different from each other, and especially, and I think you're doing a great job of that too, in terms of the sounds that you're bringing to the show. Like everything that we've played has been this
very
could
different.
have been like a free pick.
Oh yeah,
and nobody would have blinked an eye.
yeah, that's true.
So what do we got next on our list?
All right, so we're picking a track from a game called Dirt Dash.
Great game.
This is an arcade game that came out in 1995, and quite simply, this is called Mountain. Dirt Dash. That's what we just heard. The track was called Mountain off of the arcade exclusive that came out in 1995 on our composer Spotlight on Shinji Hosoe.
Indeed.
So funky.
Yeah, funky tune. Listeners, if you've hung around Mike as much as I have, you will know that he is always singing lyrics, humming little tunes to himself.
True.
Singing to his animals.
Guilty.
And this is basically the melodies. Like, this feels like what goes on in your head when you're just doing things.
Yeah, I can picture
puppy, that. Little puppy,
Yep.
like, you know.
He's my puppy, little puppy. Totally.
But yeah, no, great tune. This is all on the same hardware that Ridge Racer ran on, so this is all
Makes
sequenced
sense.
in the game. But it's a like a lighter, playful Shinji Hosoe. for
Yeah,
sure.
this kind of sounded like something you'd hear in like Mega Man 8 or something like that. Like it's got that tone that sounds like vaguely Capcom, but also has kind of a feel of its own too. I thought that the bass was obviously the star of the show here. Funky bass, slap bass. Was loving it, but I also really like those kind of sweeping like synth leads that kind of came in like in between.
Yeah, it was like a theremin, and there was like a Mega Man X guitar,
Right.
and then, you know, he really, really likes changing it up and using kind of distinct synth sounds for the leads.
I will say this is one of the more repetitive Hosoe tracks that I've heard today. Like most of the stuff that we've heard, it kind of like grows and changes as it kind of moves, which is more like your specialty with tracks that you pick. But with a track like this, yeah, this felt very repetitive. I don't know if this is like selecting a track, like it's called Mountain, but like I don't know if it's like the mountain stage. Like it feels like a select your car sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I think this is actually a racing stage. I think so this is basically like if Ridge Racer was like with trophy trucks. So
Okay.
it's all dirt tracks and there's like jumps and stuff that you can go over, but it all runs on the Ridge Racer engine. But the laps are not very long, so I don't
Okay.
think they need to be as
True.
like dynamic and long.
I mean, this is like a 6-minute song. It's
Yeah.
just very repetitive for a 6-minute
exactly.
song.
And I think, you know, maybe he didn't have as much time composing because this came out around the same time as Ridge Racer.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
maybe a lot of his time was spent doing the Ridge Racer soundtrack, and this was maybe like
Probably.
the side project whenever he got tired of the hardcore techno
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So it was just like programmed a bunch of loops in there and then did some solos over them, and then that
Right.
was kind of like
And that was it.
what he did. But it's still great listenable stuff. It's kind of weird for like a dirt track racing. Like I would expect more of like a hard rock, kind of a southern rock soundtrack for that kind of a game. But when you're playing this, it still works pretty well.
Yeah, I could totally picture like a you know, like that sort of sound.
Exactly.
Whereas this is way more funky, which I'm not complaining. I thought it was great.
No, it's a good soundtrack to listen to on its own. It's good to like work to.
Yeah,
just because
yeah.
it's not like changing up so much like those other stuff is.
Yeah, yeah.
But fun game, another one that really hasn't come out on any other
Nope.
home releases.
Stuck to rot in the arcade,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
so you gotta maim it up.
Yeah, that or find it in the wild. I did Google to see if like there were any Dirt Dash arcade machines like floating around, and oddly enough, there were. There was one that was for sale. I don't know. I couldn't find a date, but it sold for like $200.
Oh wow, that's
Which-
a good deal.
Yeah,
'Cause
like
you could
well-
put like a Ridge Racer board in there or
Yep.
something and get a lot of use out of
Oh,
that.
for sure. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Neat.
Yeah. From what I understand, this has been compared to Sega Rally.
Okay,
It's
I
like-
can totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you like Sega Rally, you might like Dirt Dash. Moving into your next pick. What do you
I
got
think
for
I
us?
picked this one just for the name of the song.
Mm.
This is it's from a game called Prismatic Solid. It's a Xbox 360 game released in 2010, and the name of the song is Internal Shaft.
Hot.
All right. Hoped y'all liked my internal shaft. That was from Prismatic Solid. Released on the Xbox 360 in 2010, but then re-released on the PS4 in 2015. Composed by Shinji Hosoe, our man of the evening.
I loved it, but, it was a little long.
Well, you just have to loosen up a little bit to make it more internal.
Oh, boy.
But it was smooth. You could say it was long and smooth.
Yeah.
And no, it was good. It was good. I like this because it actually reminds me a lot of the Ridge Racer music that came out in the later games, like Ridge Racers.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that was on like the later PlayStations and the Xbox 360. It changed from a hardcore techno style soundtrack to a real kind of trancey, well-produced, a lot of very smooth arps with like those bell pads underneath it and just kind of a driving beat. And it's such cool music to drive to. And this game is a vertical shoot 'em up, so it's interesting kind of like readjusting, at least for me, like loving Shinji Hosoe's later Ridge Racers soundtrack so much, adjusting it to like hearing this during a vertical shoot 'em up as well.
Yeah. This just kind of felt like background noise to me in many ways. Like, I think it was good, but I feel like I got a little lost in it at times where I was
Maybe that's the point.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's...
Or did the internal shaft get lost in you?
Oh, fair point. Fair point. I've never even heard of this game, though.
No, it's a digital-only game. It's kind of like it was on the Xbox Live Arcade.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a mini-ish game. It's a vertical shooter, but it's kind of like almost a cross between a vertical shooter and like Geometry Wars. Like all of your ship and everything else are like shapes and spheres and stuff. So it doesn't really have like a theme of like, sci-fi or anything like that. They're not actual ships. You're just shooting at like kind of abstract objects.
It's on the PS4 as well.
Yeah, that's what I said. It got re-released on the PS4 in 2015.
Yep.
And it's fun. It's nothing that like you're gonna like write home about.
Very colorful.
Yeah, but again, it's kind of like almost like a Shinji Hosoe soundtrack delivery system. He composed it by himself, so all the music on there is strictly by him. And if you just wanted more of that kind of like late Ridge Racer soundtrack goodness, throw a couple bucks at your digital storefront of choice, and you get some cool music to listen to while you're shooting shapes out of the sky. And like it's almost like one stage is like you're going through a ball pit, and there's other like you're shooting, you're listening to internal shaft while shooting balls.
Just sitting around wrecking balls.
My balls. Oh. But yeah, not too much to talk about with this one. I just really like this track and wanted to share it. So, you want to move on to the next one?
I mean, I'm kind of done with your internal shaft, so yeah, we should move on.
I'll give you more later.
Yeah. Let's play Tetris the Grand Master. So moving from one shapes to other shapes.
True.
This came out on the arcade in 1998, and this track is Hardening Drops Instant Death Mix. Oh man, Tetris the Grand Master. And that track was Hardening Drop's Instant Death Mix. It only came out in arcade in 1998. A lot of arcade exclusives on this episode.
Yeah, for sure. And Eureka and Namco did a lot of arcade exclusives, so makes a lot of sense there.
I've played many versions of Tetris. I've never even heard of Tetris the Grandmaster, so this was pretty neat to find. This is a very late pick for me, but I really dug this. It was composed by Shinji Hosoe. There were other tracks by Ayako Saso on there as well, but this track in particular just was super energetic, like borderline happy hardcore.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure. The way that the Tetris Grandmaster soundtracks work is that it kind of ranges from like the song that we just heard, like kind of trancey for like the easier levels, and then as it gets more difficult and more difficult, they kind of like slightly meld into like hardcore techno. So you're hearing like one of the later stages here.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's a series of these games for the arcade, and
there's like 4 games or something like that.
So back in the day when we were doing VG Embassy, we did a Tetris episode with Keyglyph and my youngest kiddo, Logan, who's now my daughter, Stella, and we did the third game in the series is called Tetris Grandmaster Terror Instinct. It's
That's such an intense name.
It really is.
Yeah.
And like by the end of it, the music is so hard and heavy. Like we were like headbanging to the music at the end of that.
Nice.
So they're basically made for tournaments for like they're called Grandmasters because it's for like the best Tetris players in Japan.
No noobs allowed.
Exactly. So it'll start off kind of easy, but it'll get ridiculously fast and really, really challenging. And they're made to be like really precise with really good controllers. So, you know, you can essentially try to drop and clear as many blocks as you possibly can. So these are all really competitive Tetris games.
Yeah. Trying to drop your shaft into the hole.
Just internalize it.
Yep.
But I think they're all made by Eureka.
Yeah.
Which, you know, explains Shinji Hosoe's involvement in the whole thing.
These did get a port via Arcade Archives fairly recently.
Oh, cool.
In the past couple of years.
I
so.
think the fourth one was on PS4 and didn't get released in arcades, if I'm not mistaken.
It was released on Steam.
Okay.
Tetris Grandmaster 4 Absolute Eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Might have gotten a PS4 release too.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, the first one was released for the Switch and the PS4 as part of the Arcade Archives series.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, Arcade Archives doing what nobody can.
Give the home players a little taste of the competitive spirit there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm, you know, not too much to say about the game aside from it Tetris.
It Tetris? It Tetris, indeed. Pretty interesting that they would make a game that would be like on like expert level for like Tetris players.
It's like, you know, the fighting game version of Tetris, essentially. Yeah.
I guess from what I understand, the gameplay is very much inspired by the Japanese arcade version of Tetris that came out from Sega.
Oh, okay.
From a while back.
That's neat.
Yeah.
That makes sense because that's what those players would be most familiar with.
So pretty cool.
And that has a lot to do with how the blocks rotate and how they drop and whether or not you can see the blocks, like an outline of the blocks to where you're going to drop it. And the difficulty level depends on like whether you have that little ghost image of the block there or not before it drops.
The third game actually has a puzzle mode, which I guess is part of Card Captor Sakura.
Oh,
from
interesting.
what I understand.
Okay.
So there's like 4 or 5 different modes. There's easy, Sakura, traditional master mode, and Shirase, which is an extension of TA Death with even harsher speed, garbage, and levels beyond 999. So I suck so hard at Tetris. Like, I'm okay on NES Tetris, but like I just never really played any other Tetris. You know what I played? I played Tetris Battle Gaiden.
Oh, okay.
On Super Famicom.
Yeah.
I played a lot of that in college.
Those are the bulletproof software versions of
I
it?
think so. They have like little mascot, like little characters. Like they have a pumpkin, like a pumpkin head guy.
Okay,
And it felt very, if I recall, it felt very much like Super Puzzle Fighter, where there's like bombs and you gotta like blow up the bombs or something like that. I can't remember, so it's been too long. I actually picked up the game fairly recently and just haven't sat down with it in ages, so I'm gonna have to sit down.
Time to Tetris it up.
That's right. Trying to drop some shafts into some holes. All right, that joke's been made, so let's move on to our final track, which is Ed's pick. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I felt this was a really good last track for the show. It's got a kind of a combination of like the old school retro stuff that Shinji Hosoe started off with the modern kind of techno aesthetic. This is Dive into the Arcade from Tekken 8, which came out on the PS5, PC, and Xbox a couple years ago, 2024. Let's take a listen.
All right.
All right, that was Dive into the Arcade from Tekken 8, released on the PS5, the PC, and the Xbox Series back in 2024. This was one of 2 tracks that Shinji Hosoe contributed to Tekken 8, the game, and I think one of my favorite tracks that he's ever composed. I just absolutely love this one. I love the melody. I love the juxtaposition of sounds between like the old school square wave and like kind of dubsteppy bass and drums. What were your feelings on it?
Yeah, no, I can agree. I do like this track. It's not my favorite, but of this pick.
No, it's your favorite.
No, it's not. But I do really like the kind of showcasing of old sounds with the 8-bit kind of blippity bloops combined with the more like dubsteppy kind of vibes, the more like modernized techno stuff. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's called Dive into the Arcade because it's like the menu screen of the arcade mode. Tekken 8 has a very classic style arcade mode where you will just like feed virtual quarters in and just go through a whole bunch of fights.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Tekken's so ensconced in its storyline at this point that the single-player mode is almost more cutscene than it is. So if you play, like, the Mortal Kombat games, it's very similar to that. Where
interesting.
There's a ton of full-motion video and real-time rendered cutscenes, Heihachi, Mishima, and Jun Kazama, and everybody that's kind of, like, all internally fighting there, internally getting the shaft, if you will. Seamlessly flow into the fight scenes.
Right. I was never a Tekken guy. I don't know what it is. I don't know if like that whole rivalry between Namco and Tecmo, you know, with Dead or Alive versus Tekken.
Oh, that's right. You were a Dead or Alive
I was
fan.
always a Dead or Alive guy. So, you know, I don't know. I've tried to play Tekken and it's just my brain just doesn't get it. It's
fine.
It's one of those. I mean, you know, the music's good, but I could never get into it. I don't know what it was.
I'll just tell the same story again. It was one of the first games I got on the launch of the PlayStation, so I played it a whole lot.
Wow, Namco really contributed quite a bit to the console.
Ridge Racer, Tekken, Cyber Sled. They had like 3 or 4 games that came out right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Speaking of Cyber Sled, Shinji Hosoe also did the soundtrack to that, and he still says it's one of his favorite soundtracks of all time.
Really?
Like, he thinks it's one of his best works.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of the series that I've always loved playing. I did a lot of verses in Tekken 3 with my brother because we were both around the prime age for fighting games when that came out. I haven't played the more recent ones that much yet. I did go through the story mode in Tekken 8 and really liked it. But, you know, nowadays, I'm just kind of going through it for the story mode and not really, like, getting into mastering the characters or anything like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much all fighters for me at this point.
So
I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, I would like to play it a little bit more, but I follow the Tekken story pretty closely because it's, I don't know, I just find it interesting, like warring corporations, and there's a lot of really cool looking characters in Tekken that it's not like, it's not too anime, for it's like Japanese, but not like, I'm not really into anime, like melodramatic and girly stuff, so I like the fact that they're all buffed up. And
More into the internal shaft.
A little more,
than the girly stuff.
Masculine shafting.
Right. But this is a good note to end on because it does really combine those you know, the more modern stuff that Hosoe has done with the older stuff.
Yeah,
so
a little bit of Dragon Spirit, a little bit of Ridge Racers, throw them all in together.
a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll, you know. Cool stuff.
I think country is the only friggin' genre we didn't visit there today.
That's true.
A lot of really cool tracks. It's going to be hard to pick a favorite. What was yours?
That's true. Now is the time of the episode where we pick our favorite tracks, and that is tough. I think I'm going to go with Ibarra.
Yeah, well, which one? Showtime or Rose
No,
Garden?
I'm just not going to pick.
It's a great soundtrack.
It is really good. Oh, man. I think I'm going to go with Ryan McPherson's pick, Showtime. Right up my alley.
Yep.
Love me some power metal. So that was really good. But I do really like Rose Garden as well. You know, it's crazy because there's so much that I really loved in this. The Dragon Spirit track was excellent. I loved your Wrong Love pick.
Yep, that's a great one.
That was a lot of fun to listen to. Just a lot of really cool stuff here. And I really dug the Dirt Dash track. You know, the more funky stuff. So really good.
Good stuff all around. I guess I kind of gave it away with the, calling it one of my favorite of his compositions of all time, but Dive into the Arcade.
Yeah.
And then Wrong Love, I think, was a very close runner-up. Just so much, good nostalgia for that time period of music, and he really captured that in that musical piece. So I really like that too. Yeah, we'd love to hear what you guys' favorite songs were too on the socials, on Discord, and where else are we now?
Discord, Blue Sky. We are no longer active on Twitter in the sense that we still have a Twitter page, but it is not being used any longer. But Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Smoke Signals.
Shinji Hosoe it up over all of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons, without whom this show's continued improvement would be impossible. They are Cam Worma, Rage Cage, Scott McElhone, Claire Myers, Brad Austin, Chris Murray, Zombie Mike, Nick Davis, Ryan McPherson, Red Hua, and Kitty Sparks.
If you would like to become a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/XVGMradio. There you can see the different tiers as well. Just $1 gets you a thank you at the end of the show and access to our monthly live shows.
You can visit our website, xvgmradio.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and learn more about your hosts, as well as any of our guests or composers that we've had on the show.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can always email us at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
If you've liked what you've heard, please consider giving us a review on iTunes.
You can join our Facebook group and chat with other VGM lovers at facebook.com/groups/xvgmradio, where we talk about everything from current game news to sharing awesome VGM tracks, or just talking about the podcast itself.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle on both of those sites is @XVGMRadio.
If you don't have any other social media or just want to try something unique, check us out on our Discord group chat. Links will be in the show notes.
All right, so we're coming back in a month, and I'm being joined by our good buddy Nico Tengoku, and we are going to be tackling basketball game music. I am so excited for this one because I'm a big fan of just in general, the game of basketball. It was one of the first sports that I really fell into on my own, where I started to really fall in love with it. Outside of baseball and football and all that, but it was the one that I kind of discovered on my own, that it wasn't my parents were here's baseball, here's football.
True.
So there's tons of awesome game music for basketball games, and we're gonna dive into it next month in 1 month. Also, we have a After Dark that is going to be coming out as well. We haven't picked a date yet, so stay tuned to our socials for that. But we are going to be listening to Samus and Chill, which is I think a Game Chops album.
Yep.
And super chill Metroid lo-fi. So join us for that sometime in March. And then Justin will be back in April. But we'll leave you with that.
I have a challenge for you for next month.
Okay.
During one of the songs, shout random things and try to convince Nico it was part of the song. Like we did last month.
Yeah.
If you can do it, you win the episode.
Yes. That's what I've always wanted to do. And then I get the internal shaft.
Nice.
Yes. All right, this is Mike.
And Ed.
Signing off for XVGM Radio.
That was Emperor. Blah, blah, blah.
I've heard that one.